Hey, Outliers, Niiamah Ashong here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey. We have an incredible conversation set up for you here on the Outliers Edge podcast. We have a roundtable of three awesome outliers who are here to share more about their experience and leveling up their impact, their income, and their identity. So let's go ahead and play with that and get a chance to see who each of these people really are. Amy, why don't we start with you? Would you mind? Thank you for being here, firstly. And then would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I am operating a transformable business in Ottawa, Ontario, and really just working towards changing how elder care is looked at and how caregivers are cared for in my space and giving them lots of education and tools to operate their lives successfully, as well as professionals who are now caregivers for their loved ones.
I'm loving where this is starting here. I'm excited to see how we play with that here. Adam, how about you? Let us know more about you and the game you're currently playing.
Yeah, thanks. Also, thank you for inviting me to this. Yeah, I currently work with first responders who are dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. I encourage them to get back to work after being off, after being diagnosed with PTSD. And yeah, I give them ideas and let them really take control of their own lives and get back to the passion that they're all about. That's kind of me in a nutshell right now.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Ryan, let's give Outliers a chance to get to know you as well. Would you mind sharing with us more about you and the game you're playing?
Sure, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak with you. And I am by day a transportation manager in Laredo, Texas, and by night I'm a podcaster for a faith-based program in growing your within not only yourself but also in understanding Scripture and just knowing the Word of God as a whole.
Awesome. I'm glad y'all are here. I'm excited to see how each of you, we got a chance to see the game you're currently playing, and for the rest of the conversation, I'll be focusing on the game that you're growing into, like the next level of the game that you're getting to. So why don't we start off with this here? I'm going to toss this question into the mix here, and uh, I'll ask Amy for you to get us started on it, and then we'll just let the conversation evolve from there. But the question that I'm curious about is, as you all are thinking about your next level, about how you are growing in your game, what's one belief you're currently challenging, or one belief that you feel like would need to be challenged in order for you to really play at the level you're headed to next? Amy, you mind getting us started on that, and then let's
Oh,
see where the conversation goes.
I suppose I have to start, but I think that one of the beliefs that a lot of us have to overcome is am I good enough to do this? And can I make a dent in the area that I want to in a substantial way? And will people respond to that? I think is kind of where I'm challenging myself as I grow.
Yeah, Amy, can we play with this a bit here? So tell us more about you talked about can I make a dent in the area that I play? I love to give us a chance here to let's look at it from this way. I want to look at this in two different lenses, and then we'll go from there. The first one is for you're currently playing a big game as it stands. So what's one belief that you had to up level to even get you to play the game that you currently play? Let's start with one question at a time. Let's go with that. But what would you say about that?
I think that, I'm the belief is kind of always like can getting past imposter syndrome. Like I said, kind of am I good enough to do this? Can I do this? Am I going to make a dent? And in my area, in my world, our industry is very archaic. And so when you put a new lens to it, it takes some time to get that moving. And so, you can't help but wonder, am I the person to do this? And will people follow that, transition into newer ways to do things, newer ways to support people?
Amy, you're getting me thinking right now. I feel you on this, and it's getting me think of a couple different things. I want to play off that in just a bit, but first I want Adam and Ryan to also get a chance to respond to this one here. So this one's the question on the table. Firstly, is around like beliefs that you had to up level to play at the level you play right now, and if you're really feeling like edgy about it, like what's a belief that you're currently up leveling because you're going to your next level.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Amy was talking about is, for being someone that's working with first responders, we deal with a certain type of stigma about mental health within the first responder business. So when you're dealing with those kind of people and talking with them, when I'm trying to level up myself, I have to look at myself differently and say, okay, look, I've gone through, because I was a first responder for years, and I've gone through similar things that they've gone through. So trying to battle with that myself and level up to that next level to show them, look, I can do it, so can you, is kind of a struggle that I deal with all the time, but I really work on also to try to get to that next level.
Take that. Ryan, anything for you on this one?
I've never been one personally who has been satisfied with the bare minimum. So I've always wanted to challenge myself and experience my limits. And I'm still exploring what those limits are. But the one thing that I can tell you with complete confidence, which is funny that the other two members of this panel talked about mental health, is that we tend to be not only our own best friends, but are also our worst enemies because we hold ourselves back or we allow ourselves to be distracted by something that does not allow us to go to the next level. And so my current step in the journey right now is exploring where I'm holding myself back and what I need to do in order to conquer that challenge and move to the next level.
That's awesome, Ryan. And as we go on here, I'm gonna dive in deeper with each of you. So you're gonna find with me, like I'll probably ask you, like, all right, make this real for me, right? When I say make it real for me, it's an element of being able to take it to like your lived experience of how you're navigating that right now, or how you navigated that in the past. Because I think you're probably getting a lot of nods from outliers right now that are like, yep, I get that, I get that. So what are you doing about it? How did you do it? And I'd love to make sure we get into that. So Amy, you brought up something here that caught me when you were talking about the system that you're in right now is quite archaic, right? You didn't use the word system, but I'm using that a little bit more generally. The system you're in right now is quite archaic, and there's a way that things have been done. Is what I get. The status quo is very much like imbued in there, but you see things differently, and you're like, hey, I'm able to take this lens of how I see it and apply it over to this space. And with that, then comes all the questions of like, will this work? Am I the one to do this? Can I even make a dent in this? Who am I to be doing this? I'm even good enough at that this year. I just want to say, like, you spoke to me in a lot while you were saying that there, because I have a massive mission that drives me. But even just in like this podcast panel, I started this in time of this recording. I started it about 3 months ago. It's been 3.5 months since I like started doing this type of panel, and these questions still show up. So I'm curious for you around, maybe you can share with us here, like, what has been working for you to keep yourself in the game and to keep trying new things, to basically to keep trying to put that lens out in front of people. I'm really curious about some of the things that you've tried that have like worked for you, as you are bringing out this new way of approaching things in your world.
Yeah, for sure. For the general public, I think what's worked to get me in front of them, to get our company in front of them, and new ways of thinking is just to constantly educate and constantly put content out. I'm fortunate as a business owner that there's not a lot of content in my area in elder care. Not fortunate for caregivers that there's not a lot of content. So basically I'm in a world where I'm claiming that category for elder care, and I'm moving towards, and so that gets me out in front of more people so that they can obtain that education. And I feel like as a business owner, if you help people, then that's a fast way to kind of spread the love of, getting other people to say, hey, I read this, go have a look at this. And the more eyes you get on yourself and your business, the better you get every year. And creating content for us, creating content that people ask for or that have come up in our discovery calls with our clients and such. Just being very in tuned, and also being able to change how we do business and how we operate business on the drop of a dime, and being able to be flexible, I think has been a large thing for us.
That's awesome. Like now I'm going to ask you here, like that element of being flexible. Can you give us an example of how the way that you created content and like led to a discovery or led to some kind of like a feedback loop that then created a change for you there?
Well, when you're an entrepreneur in my style of business, which is working with retirement homes and long-term care homes, there's a lot of room for growth. So it's just a matter of making sure that you pay attention to what's coming your way. And so when I said, our industry is kind of archaic, it's that way because there's little information going out and things kind of run all the same all the time. If you take retirement living, for instance, people are trying to differentiate, but it's kind of the same of the same. And so really paying attention to what the customer, which is the same customer for me and the retirement homes for interest purposes, what they need. And so when we are agile and we adapt and we're flexible to our clients, that's really hearing what they need and trying to fill the need immediately, as opposed to putting 12-month marketing plans together and getting to that eventually. It's how can we service this, even if it's small first, how can we service this? So we've done that for a number of different things, like our respite grant, right? Our clientele was telling us, we can't pay for respite for my loved one, but we're in caregiver burnout substantially, we need help. So we created a grant so that we can put money towards that, so that we can have people doing respite more often, to give them exposure to the retirement homes, but also to meet them where they are.
Jamie, I love this. I'm going to open up to Adam and Ryan on this. Some of the things that are flowing out for me as you're talking about this are, one, paying attention to the needs of the customer and starting from that place. Two, like taking action in the immediate future rather than like in the long-term future. Not ignoring the long-term future, but being able to say, like what caught me was like you talked about like doing something now with what you have now, even if it's not like the big like end all solution. Like and I love that, because I think a lot of outliers here, we have huge missions, we have huge visions, and we're like, going to that point of like, but who am I to do this? That like I can't, like I've never spoken in front of a room of 100,000 people, but I see myself on stages on that, and it's like, great, can you get yourself in front of a room of 10 people? Can you make a podcast episode and get 10 listeners? Like, can we get, like, are there ways to start building towards that with real-time things right now? I was hearing that from you, Amy. And the other thing that really caught me was like the creative solutions, right? Like you said, you created a grant to help them with this problem here. And I'm not in your industry, but I thought that was really like fun, because it got me thinking, like, where are ways where I might go and say, oh, I need to educate you more, or I need to go do this. And I'm not looking at all the tools available to just create, like, to just fill the gap. You're like, all right, our business will create a grant for you, and we'll just handle this problem for you. You don't have to you don't have to worry about it. We'll just handle it. Just all you got to do is apply,
Yeah.
I love that element of that there. Any other thoughts on that? And I want to open up to Adam and Ryan on anything that's coming through them.
I mean, everything you said, right? And I think it's just, help people where they are. And, a lot of people think of that as baby steps, but I don't like using that term. I think it's building blocks, right? And just use what you can and build it. I can't tell you how many times I've recreated my courses and even my book, that I'm just always trying to improve. And that comes out in my education for the caregivers too.
Outliers here this year, like she can't tell us how many times she's recreated this year. Like I think a lot of times we get into this, I want to be passive, I want to have passive income, so I'm going to create it once, set it, forget it. And why aren't people coming in? Why aren't they doing it? Because it isn't meeting their needs. Just because you created it doesn't mean it's meeting their needs. There are ways to keep iterating and improving. And Amy, I appreciate you bringing that into our space right off the bat. There's a I think sometimes we think that this is what people are doing. Oh, Amy has a course. So like, why isn't my course performing as well as Amy's course? And it's like, Amy's on version 26. You're on version 1.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lot that happened in between there. Yeah. So let me open up to Adam and Ryan. The conversation kind of evolved. I was just staying with Amy for a little bit. The conversation kind of evolved. So what I'm going to do is I'm curious, like, what is flowing for you right now as a result of any part of this conversation? Let's pick it up from there. Adam, I see you unmuted. What would you want to contribute in here?
Yeah, no, I fully agree with the conversation and what you guys are talking about. And oftentimes as entrepreneurs, when we start out, and I know I've done this many times, is I find that I'm not good enough to put out this content, so I back off. And then it's like a passion in me. I have to get back to it. It's like, no, I need to do this. So I recreate stuff that I've already created. And it's a battle that I've done within myself. Because I look at someone, let's say, someone hugely successful, and like you said, to be on stage with 100,000 people and to kind of slow it down. Okay, let me be on stage, or let me stand in front of 10 people and get the courage for that before I jump huge in front of the 100,000. And it's the same thing as comparing yourself. We're human. We always compare ourselves to that person that we want to be eventually, but we don't look at who that person is. Let's say, like you said, at stage 30, you want to look at someone ahead of you that's at stage 5 and be like, okay, I'm going to compare myself to that person, go, okay, what can I do to get to that level? And then we'll bounce up from there. And it kind of takes a step back and really looking at who you are and your growth pattern to get to where you want to achieve.
Go ahead, Ryan. You look at something you want to add as well.
Yeah, no, when it comes to looking at a problem or a set of people that we're trying to service, when you look at it as a whole, oftentimes it looks insurmountable, or it just looks like it's going to be such a difficult task. But to the point of the other two, if you were to prioritize steps A, B, C, and D, and then we can move on to E, F, G, H, and so on there, it not only makes it more comfortable to move forward as a leader, but also it doesn't cause you to get discouraged and want to lose sight of things. But on top of that as well, oftentimes we'll finish a product, or you're at a certain level of success and you want to relax and you take your foot off the gas a little bit. But the trick to being even greater than you currently are as well is to constantly remain as what I like to call constructively dissatisfied, where there's always some way that we can do this better. There's always something we can tweak, or something we can adjust, or something we can implement that will improve this beyond what it already is, and tailor it to the personal custom needs of the customer and the individual. But lastly, as well, is because sometimes we don't have all the answers, and we quite frankly don't know where to begin or what to do. And like Adam was saying as well, we look for people who are a few steps ahead of us. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to seek a mentorship of some kind, and someone who is willing to spend the time to guide you and make and advise you on proper steps to move forward. So instead of isolating ourselves thinking it's just our problem, share the load with someone that has already been there and work towards achievement on your own as well, not just for the sake of the customers, but for ourselves.
Can I jump in there?
Please, Adam.
Yeah. So Ryan, I totally get with what you're saying. I don't know if you have an idea, because I'm like that. I love creating programs. I love creating, but I go, and I'm like you, I go A, B, C. And then I'm like, wait, I have an A.1. And then it's like, okay, I do that. And then it's like, I got a B.2. And it's like, I can never get to that C or E, F, because I have to keep filling in those gaps that I'm like, I'm inspired to do this. So I have to keep going back and forth. So I don't know if you have an idea of kind of how to maintain that and just keep my flow without actually incorporating, because that's definitely, and then I'm never getting to the new programs that I want to create because I keep going back.
Well, in my case, I mean, I don't have all the answers, unfortunately, but in my case, I've always been my worst enemy in terms of I allow myself to get discouraged, or in my case, in the past, I've struggled with addiction, and those things held me back from doing what I should do. I knew what I had to do, and I had an idea of how to do it, but I didn't even allow myself to explore, to even try those things and get past just the inception, brainstorm stage. And so oftentimes when we get stuck in a certain rut, uh, we have to see what is everyone else doing? What is everyone else doing, and where are they succeeding? What are you seeing that aligns with your personal goals and interests, and seeing if there's a small way we can incorporate that into how we run things. And so that's worked for me in the past, as well as just trying something until it's a mastery of sorts. It's getting done. It's rough, but it's getting done. How can I make this better? And then it just takes time. And those things it may not be as fast as you'd like in my case, but it's getting better over time through trial and error.
I would say, if I can add to that too, one of the reasons why I say I recreate my courses and stuff, I had to get to a point where done is better than perfect, right? There's a lot of us that are people pleasers. There's a lot of us that are perfectionists. I want to put awesome content out into the world. And so I know that even if it's my version A, I know that it's helping someone, because you wouldn't have put it out unless you thought it was going to help someone. So trying to like get that out, but then realize, okay, it's out. Like, I don't film a perfect video sometimes, right? It's just that doesn't work sometimes. Sometimes I stumble on my words, and then I realize I'm a person. And so if someone's not going to watch my content or whatnot because I stumbled over a word, then maybe they're not my clientele. Maybe they're not the people for me. Because I need that flexibility, because we're not perfect. And so even though I go back and create things, and it does take me a minute to get through it, I've had to let that go a little bit and say, 80, 90%, I'm good. The content's, legit, it's good, but maybe my video skill or something was off. I put it out, and then I will come back eventually to, there's new information that comes out. I update it and whatnot, but I keep putting them out. And my own personal slogan is "Do it screaming." So just get it out there and just put it out to the world and forget it exists and move on with your world. And then when you have to update, or when you get through it, then come back and update it. And you're going to be better every single time, because you as a person grows.
Right. And I completely agree with that. And the fact of the matter is, no matter what business we're in, we're dealing with real people that have real problems, and they're all unique to some fashion. And so in the business world, especially in transportation, like me, I don't have a product to sell. The only thing I can sell is service. And so if the customer is satisfied, then I'm doing my job. But at the same time, when it comes to the podcasting world, if I may be rough at it, I may not be that great at it, but if and I, like I said from the very beginning on mine, is if I can change or help one person make their life better, or help them find what they need through scripture, then I've done my job. And it was all worth it. All the blood, sweat, and tears, all the time spent on it, it's worth it, because the people that we're helping are real people with real problems. And from us, who knows what kind of impact they're going to have on the world through us being a part of the solution.
So I'm curious here. I appreciate this. I love where this conversation is going. Adam, I'm curious what you heard, like, because what I was hearing and what you asked there, and I'm really grateful that you asked it. It's like, this is the problem that we as outliers face, right? So I'm curious about like what you heard, how you feel, how, yeah, just why don't you share in real quick before we go on to another question?
Yeah, no, Amy and Ryan have been super awesome. And that's, yeah, I like what Amy said about just get it out there screaming. Because it's true. It's like just there's people out there that are going to want this product or going to need it. And like Ryan said, that one person, if you can help, like if I could help that one person get over the stigma of PTSD, then it's going to create that effect of that person will help one person, that person will help one person, and it'll fan out to a whole bunch of people. So it really kind of opened my eyes to just, do it now, get it out, and then come back to it when I've grown a little bit more and am able to pass off my message. So
Yeah, I want to stay on this topic a bit here because it's the first time it's really come up in this setting. I'm like, there's some really interesting elements of this, right? So the balance in like, I'll bring myself into it to just have some context, right? Right now, I'm seeing that there is a solution I want to provide for outliers, and there's a tension between getting the whole solution done. Like basically, there's a lot of different problems. You know, there's a ton of different problems out there that show up. Even if we just look at just the podcast, for example, like I do think that, but if you just look at even just having a podcast, there's what theme all the way to getting it out there to how do we get clients from it. Now, oh wait, people are coming and getting on discovery calls with me. What do I say? Like there's everything, every solution to a problem creates a new problem, and so I there's an element of as we're having this conversation here, looking at it and saying like, when is it all like about completion? When is it about like in improving? And like Adam, when you were saying the thing about like going down to like B.2, I was like, oh, does it make more sense to get one thing to be really, really great? Or is it like better to have the entire alphabet all at version one, and then see like, okay, can I get people all the way through? And like to the result and then go from there. So I'm curious about how y'all build systems, how y'all determine like how you're able to lead people to results and how you come back and decide like, okay, now it's something that I need to go and actually improve on. Because it's one thing to say then come back and improve it, but I'm actually curious about like what are the criteria, the milestones, like the check engine lights that says, oh, it's time for me to go back and make some improvements here. Any thoughts y'all have on that one?
I would say, I never look at myself as complete because I'm growing. We're never complete. So whether it's content or anything else that you're putting out for people, um, I'm of the mind that, I mean, when I create content, it's, I have a list of things that I want to do, but there's priorities that I think that'll be better. And so to your point of kind of getting everything to 1.0 and then improving, I generally spend some extra time getting one course for this purpose done and to a point where I'm happy with it, whether the video turned out perfect or not, but the actual content. And then you watch how people, if it's a free download or a purchase or whatnot, you watch that, you start marketing that a little bit to see where the interest is. I've even put things that, feedback forms and stuff, like tell me what you like or don't like about this so that I can improve. And then as you go through, you're going to get improvements on the way. Things might change in the industry, things might adapt. And that's when I go back to, can I add more value? Even like my book that I recreated, 3 years difference between launch dates. And it's because I grew substantially as a person and I wanted to talk about something else in the same realm.
and then for me, I guess what it is like I'll create a course and then I'll get feedback on the course and people will be like, well, how about this? And what about this? And I'm like, okay, well, that can honestly be a different project because this course kind of helps you in this area, but I want to create something now for this area. So, for example, it'd be like people want to understand what PTSD is in first responders. So I created a course about that. And then they're like, well, what about my triggers? How do I overcome my triggers that I have? And I'm like, okay, well, let me create a product to a course for this. So instead of, but I've already created my plan from point, A to the alphabet. And it's like, okay, well, but I want to create this for you now. So I'm going to slide it into, C.2 so that I can get this program out because people are already asking for it and need it. And that's kind of how I build my business. But, as Ryan is saying, I get super overwhelmed sometimes because I'm okay, now I want to create this program, but I have all these programs in my plan. So I have to break my plan. So I guess as an entrepreneur, I need to be a little bit more adaptable to who I want to be and where I want to go. And that'll kind of calm my nervous system down, I guess, in a sense.
Well, and you can create all the programs we want, right? Like probably it sounds like me, right? We've got a lot of ideas, we have a lot of content we want to get out there. And I work on things on the side or whatnot. But to your point, when people ask you for it, they're coming to you as a thought leader and they're saying, Adam, I like your content. I want you to teach me this. And so to me, as a creator, that trumps things in my world because people have come, you finally gotten this bunch of people that are following you or people that are invested in your content and they're saying, I can learn from you. I need to learn this. Can you help me? And so to me, that is a good enough reason for me to say, you know what I'm working on can wait a minute because I can create this. It's because it sounds like it's in line with what you're doing already, right? I can create this. It's not that much of a problem, but it would help so many people. And so I weigh that out.
However, conversely as well, being entrepreneurs, we have limited skill sets at times and we have limitations, whether it be time, staffing, whatever it may be. So we have to know what our limits are to the extent where we want to please our clientele. We want to make those that are interested in our content more satisfied and much more able to cope with whatever's going on. But at the same time, is that something that I can attain in the short term? Is it something that I can do successfully without my what I've already done falling apart? Because when you started your respective businesses, you had a specific vision in mind, and that vision will change a little over time, sure, but ultimately what you originally got into it for needs to be maintained. And if it starts falling apart because you're trying to overextend and trying to please everyone who has a suggestion, then you might burn yourself out and the whole thing might fall upon itself. And so knowing your limits and knowing what will it's always it's good that they're giving you feedback to grow, which we don't have all the answers, but we also have to explore, is this something that is achievable in the short, as well as is this something that is within my realm of maintaining with not neglecting what I've already built.
I'm going to come in on this one here. I see you, Adam. I want to bring you in. I'm going to come in. I like this question in a sense because I like this, like the conversation that we're having. I'm going to have it stay on this for a little bit longer because I think it kind of goes back to Amy. You talked about one of the bigger fears being like, am I good enough for this? Right. And at the same time, I think what like part of what I'm hearing here is like that doesn't matter. Like as long as like, are you willing to stay with it long enough to become like great at it? Are you willing to stay with it long enough to do the multiple iterations? Are you creating feedback loops for the people that you're serving so that you can actually figure out more about what is the problem that they're what like we might think we know what the solution is, but and I think about the 12-month cycles you were talking about, Amy. I'm very big on like, traditional project management versus agile, and lean approaches. And what I'm hearing from you is like they have like the traditional style is we've sat down for 12 months and then we give it to you a year later than what you asked for, and your needs or the shifts from the market might have gone somewhere else, as opposed to being agile and being able to meet things in the moment. There's something about this that I feel like is actually like a practical tactical, like elements of like maybe you aren't good enough when you first start out with it in terms of like your actual pure skill, but you are there, you do care, and like are you in the game invested enough to do what it takes to keep making the adjustments such that maybe in year one it's one thing, but by year 3, year 5, you have like the new gold standard on it because you've taken the time to, go from your XYZ plan. And as Adam's done, it's like, oh, it turns out that I missed something in along the way, and they need support with this before they can actually go on to the next portion there. So like I've never really thought about it, but it almost feels like a concrete way. And I'm going to speak to you, Outliers, here, where it's like I think there's an element of like permission to be as good as you are in the moment, But then like being more dedicated to being like, I'm someone who's going to keep solving this problem, and I'll solve it as best as I can with the tools I have available for me at that moment. But and then when that's not good enough, I will come back and solve it again with the new tools I have available to me. Right?
Mhm.
Am I like, let me just check in. Does that sound like some of what we're saying here in this space here?
Yeah, for me that it's like right on point because with what Ryan was saying, it's like when someone comes to it, like I love learning about my niche. Like I love learning about the people I'm going to support. So when someone comes to me and they're like, well, how do I solve this? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know, but I want to discover that for myself because I know it's going to help my clients better. And I love learning and love growing within myself for my clients. And then another point I had from Ryan's conversation is to also make sure, and this is for the outliers out there, is to make sure that you niche down. Because I remember when I first started, I wanted to help everybody with PTSD, as many people I could coach. And I was getting overwhelmed because people were coming at me from left, right, and center from all these different ideas. So when I was able to kind of niche it down to a small community, you know, I've heard the expression, don't try to help the ocean, just to try to help with this fish in a pond. Because then the smaller community, I can grow more and help more than I can the overall being. So
There's something to this here. So there's two things that are playing out for me when you say this. One is like around the niche down component, right? And I almost find that like sometimes people just have to go, you have to go through the stage of trying to help with what you have, right? Which is like I'm helping people with PTSD, and it wasn't until you went and you realized like, oh crap, there's so many different variations of this problem that I thought was one thing is actually quite a massive problem. And so I can't help everyone with every single facet, but I can maybe help this group of people with as many of the facets at least. And at least then things are building on upon each other. So you can say, I already created a resource that may already speak to you. I want to put that in like I want to call out like you did start wider, almost not like because I'm finding that like a lot of us, especially outliers, we're multi-talented, multi-passionate. We have a lot that we want to give to the world. And like some of us don't even give anything because we're like, I don't know what my niche is. It's like, go take action. And as you take action, you'll probably discover that there's a group of people that like you serve easier than other people. You like you can come back to it, and then like the niche will continue to evolve and let make itself known. I'm curious for you, Adam. How did you and Amy, you also talked that you're like in a very like specific niche as well. I'm curious, but I'll start with you, Adam. Like, how did you like discover like, oh, it's not just everyone with PTSD. Like, I'm actually going to keep choosing. How did you figure out for yourself that was like, first time responders or
um
first responders?
basically I figured it out because your niche is kind of who you are. So, and I found that I can talk to people that I can relate to. So if I'm trying to talk to somebody way out in left field that has post-traumatic stress, maybe they got it from like childhood trauma or something like that, I can't relate to them. But when it comes to, because worked I was a correctional officer, I'm a correctional officer in the prison system, been there for over a decade. And I can relate with those first responder people of what they deal with, the traumas they go to, how they felt, because I've dealt with that my personal self. And bringing that out, I was able to kind of go, okay, these are the people I can truly help. Because I love helping people. You know, we're on here as entrepreneurs, we love helping people. So when we're trying to help the world, that's where burnout begins, and that's where we get overwhelmed. So for me, it's like, who can I truly relate to? So when I do my podcast, when I do my courses, I can speak to those people because I can bring my own experiences out.
Amy, I'm curious about you because I don't think you've been in a retirement home yet. I'm assuming there. So how about you? How did this come about for you?
I've been in a retirement home, but at working wise,
Yes.
I think that's where I started, right? Because I knew that the marketing aspect, the intake aspect, and getting people into the right settings was really difficult for families. And we had to niche down a little bit as well. And there's two things. So, I mean, one, you have to be okay with not being able to service everyone. So where we started was every single call we had to like answer on the first ring, and like because it was super competitive when I started in this little niche, there was a couple of us, which sounds weird, but across Canada it's not competitive, right? So you know, you're always on, and eventually that turns into like giving yourself like free or giving free services and things like that, like things that you kind of weren't in the market for, because entrepreneurs, although we want to give a lot, and I do coaching for people as well. One of the things in the healthcare sector, which Adam might be relate to, is that there's a lot of people in our sector that are in there operating businesses because they want to help, but then they forget that if they don't make money as an entrepreneur, we can't help anyone. And so I've had to teach my team that as well. And it's that not everyone's our client. That's also why we offer so much free material as well. It's all there, but we can't help everyone. And then the second point is that although I have not been in retirement as a client, my niche that we're kind of moving into for me as a person and how I educate is in the sandwich generation, because I have a young child and I have aging parents, and that's the niche that's come out lately, but it didn't come until I got to a point where my daughter was growing up and my parents were aging, right? Like I had to grow into that niche myself, and then recognize that there's a whole group of people that, although we were servicing, were probably underserved. So then you work on that.
I appreciate you all here. Like, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I actually want to keep it going, but we're coming up to the end of our time here together. Y'all been fantastic, and I want to just appreciate you opening up new paths in this conversation, place that haven't been gone to and explored. And it feels like the outlier way. You took us to the edge, and you took us on these new frontiers. So thank you, Outliers. I'm going to come to you here. This conversation had something in it for you. And my ask is that you join us in what we call the one person, one conversation at a time initiative, where you go to one other person in your life and you share this episode with them as a gift to them. The idea here being that there's something in this in this conversation that can speak to that person. And if you can let that person know that you were thinking of them and sharing this as a gift for them to be a part of a conversation with Outliers, it would mean the world to me. You can feel free to go and share it on all your different platforms, but I have a feeling that, like, after all of like the downloads and the listens and all that take place, what's really gonna like make the impact is one person reaching out to another and saying, that thing that Amy said, the thing that Adam said, the thing that Ryan said, I heard you, and I heard the struggles you're going through. I think that they can help. Why don't you take a listen to this and see? All right. So please join us in the one person, one conversation at a time initiative. Share this with everyone else that you want to, but just make sure that at least one person knows that you were thinking of them specifically. So the way that we wrap up our conversations, Amy, Adam, and Ryan, the way that I do this here is that I want Outliers to have a chance to jump into your world. All right. And so my ask is that you share with us the best way for Outliers to dive deeper with you, and through whatever contact means that is, and then also share with us an insight that you got from this conversation. That's something that you are taking away from this conversation. Outliers are taken care of. We don't need to worry about them. They got what they got. But for you, what has changed? What's something that you want to do differently, or it's working on you as a result of this conversation? Okay. So we're going to share your best contact and an insight you got from this conversation, if any. If you didn't get any, that's totally fine. Just say that too. All right. Why don't we start with you, Ryan, and then we'll go to Adam.
Okay. I can be reached on most podcasting platforms through RSS. My channel is called Equipping the Saints. And you can also find me on YouTube under Equipped with Truth. If you need to contact me by email, my email is equipped.with.truth@gmail.com. Love to hear from anyone who has questions or concerns. But main thing I got out of this is that what is an outlier, really? An outlier is someone who has a strong motivation, a strong drive that is uncommon compared to your average person. And those are the people that have the capacity to serve those that don't have that drive, the ones that are going to be relying upon someone else to get them where they need to be. And so it was a wonderful time to meet more people that are driven like me, And it just refreshes me to know that there are others that are in the same fight as me, as well as just to renew the fact that the people that we serve are depending on us. If you really, when you put it like that, they're depending on us to help improve their life. And so that just gives me all the motivation in the world to do what I do.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you for putting us back into that perspective and seeing it from that place. I appreciate you. Thanks for making the time for this. Go to Adam and then Amy.
Yeah, for me, you can reach me on my website at ptsd-transformation.com or on my podcast at Beyond the Badge, which actually launched January 3rd, 2025. So super excited about that one. And from what I got out of this is that we're all kind of on the same path together. We're all wanting to help people, and our journey is unique to our own, but also united as one. We're all trying to serve, we're all trying to help. And I appreciate seeing Ryan and Amy and where we're going with this. And that you're not alone in your fight. And just keep creating what you're doing, and the outcome's going to be there.
So you can reach me at amyfriesen.com for general Amy Friesenness and coaching. And then if you're in our area or you need some caregiver assistance, teaandtoast.ca is our company. And I agree with the guys here that, generally as entrepreneurs, because we generally work on our own or in smaller businesses, there's definitely larger businesses, but there's a lot of us that are a couple of people or one person. I think it's really important to remember that there's other people out there doing this, and we're all having the same struggles. And that's why I said my slogan is doing it screaming, because at the end of the day, you just have to follow your path and adjust for your life and how you can best service people, and know that there's other people out there that feel like imposters, and there's other people in there that are struggling with the same things that you're struggling with. And so sometimes just knowing that intellectually helps a little bit to keep pushing through.
Oh, I appreciate all of you here for playing the game and for standing into your leadership and creating for all of us out here. No Outliers, please jump into their world. We have a lot of great things going on here. We got you. We thank you for being the Outliers that you are. And I'm going to come to you, Outliers, on this one with this here. Be you on purpose. Journey on.